I didn't leave my house. It was hard for me. Grew up drawing and painting and making music, and it was hard for me to do any of those things. And so, fast forwarding a bit, like the idea of getting on stage was just like, it was impossible. Today, to be able to go out and do shows it's like, for me, it's like this victory. It's a miraculous thing, and one of the things that drives me to do is the knowledge that I've been through something that, while it's unique in some senses because it's on this larger scale, it's universal in a sense that we all lost somebody, and we all go through tragedy and trauma, and I feel like I made a decision early on to share that with people and talk about it in the open. That's Mike Shinoda responding to Trevor Noah after being asked what it's like to get back on stage again during a Daily Show interview in 2018.
And that's the intro to today's Polymuse podcast. We're doing a very special album, a very special episode. We're doing Post-Traumatic, the arguably first solo album by Mike Shinoda, directly following the death and aftermath of the tragedy of Chester Bennington's suicide. And it is a whole entire project of him dealing with the grief of losing his friend, and that's a quote that kind of sums up the whole experience that you are going to be in for today. We're going to talk about every track on the album. This is a spin-off of our Linkin Park podcast. We've done every Linkin Park album, and now we're going to do the Mike Shinoda solo releases, and that's what you're getting in for today. It's not going to be fun and games, goofball hour. It's going to be a lot of sad subject matter, a lot of really kind of dark, depressing themes and discussions here. We are going to criticize it as music, as an album. It's not beyond criticism here. We're going to say what we liked, what we didn't like as an art project, as a piece of music that he put together. Let's get started, man. What else do we got to say here on the intro for Post-Traumatic Mike Shinoda solo album?
Well, the project came about after the Celebrate Memorial concert for Chester on October 27th, 2017. Chester passed earlier, July 20th, 2017, so a few months earlier. Rick Rubin really encouraged the concert to kind of support the fans and kind of give them the outreach from the group who, really had that fan impact, that fan reach. And so really the fans really needed some support from the group. So it's both a give and take, really that band-fan relationship. Of course, we talked about the Linkin Park Underground fan club.
Direct contact with the band. They're mailing you stuff in the mail.
Of course, we had, when they started, we didn't have live streaming on Facebook and other platforms, but Correct. By this point, we certainly did. So it was a big outreach to Mike and the band from fans, just feeling that grief back from fans. So Dave Phoenix, fellow band member,
bassist.
Kind of
Phoenix,
bassist. Yep.
Our boy Phoenix.
He encouraged Mike to kind of go back and listen to Linkin Park music again. Mike was having, understandably, a very difficult time, kind of an identity crisis. Is he still an artist? What does it mean for his career? Identity shift, self-doubt, all of that in the back of his head. And so he started to go back to painting, drawing, playing music, kind of the beginning of his self-recovery, to kind of get himself back and moving the right direction again after the terrible loss of Chester there.
So I think it's incredible that is how Mike Shinoda processes his emotions. He writes the song and gets rid of the negative or at least expresses the negative emotions. So it's so crazy there's 18 songs on this thing, and I'm pretty sure all of them, some explicitly and some, more vague, more metaphorically, but they're all about Chester's death and his feelings and the aftermath of that. And it's just such an interesting concept as an artist for him to be able to, that's how he deals with grief. He just keeps making songs. That's how he deals with everything. He makes a song, whether he's angry, sad, happy, whatever. So now that he has this overflowing of that type of emotion, he just has to make an 18-track record about it.
Yeah, he very much described this album as his journal, and it starts very kind of chaotic, and it's not meant to be as much of a darker album, although we're going to argue that a lot of tracks certainly are that tone, although there are the lighter and darker sides, both lyrically, instrumentally, and in feeling and emotion. But it's very much a journal of his processing the feelings. And again, this album was very much his process as well as fans. And in touring, he had, fans sing along with both his original music, Linkin Park songs as well. So again, just a full fan experience all the way through the process. The artwork as well is his painting.
Okay.
It's just
It's abstract.
yeah.
It's not a painting of anything.
No.
Which is fine.
Yep. It's just kind of
The mishmash
of colors.
of whatever. I mean, it's one of those things where you look at it as like, I could have done that. It's like, yeah, but you didn't.
Right.
No, he did it, and it's his expression. I like abstract art. I got nothing against it, but
it did come with it did come with an art book as well. And it did come with coloring pages. And we've talked about how it's considered to be very therapeutic coloring.
Okay.
And kind of
sure
processing emotions as well.
Why not?
Yeah. There you go.
And
Coloring pages in your CD case.
Yeah, I can't think of another record that came with a coloring book. I would not have guessed it would have been this record. I would have maybe They Might Be Giants album or some goofball thing that came with a coloring book. But you know what? They're always finding new ways to market and new ways to get art into people's hands like that. And I guess that makes a lot of sense to have a multimedia aspect to this. I guess, fidget spinners and all that kind of crap where you're physically processing anxiety or emotions or whatever. So that kind of makes sense.
Yep.
Maybe we should talk about some of the criticism of this record, as far as there's people who don't think that Mike should be profiting off of Chester's death in this manner.
The album was well received by critics and fans, but allegedly there were family members on Chester's side that were not thrilled with him putting out material after his death and continuing to perform his songs, perform Linkin Park songs, and kind of profit off of their material. So
yeah, but he's not profiting off of his death. He's profiting off of artwork that was made through his emotions, that were made from his experience of his friend dying. And, it's not exploitative, however you say it. He's not exploiting it. He's moving through the grief. He's helping the fans move through the grief. It's unique. That's a unique record. I can't think of another one like that where it's just such about a personal event like that. I also think it's interesting that it was kind of promoted the way a normal record would be promoted. Like, there are features on this thing. They promoted it heavily. It's not just like a little throwaway tribute kind of under the radar. It could have been like that, but this is his solo album. It was promoted. He did a press tour. They released, singles. They released everything that you would do for a normal album. So I think that's interesting that Mike and his producers and his team, whoever, believed in the material so much and understood that people would be able to deal with this kind of a record and, enjoy it and move through their own grief or whatever with it, and that it didn't just become kind of a side note, like kind of under the rug, sad little demo tape thing, which it could have been. They could have done it that way.
Right, yeah. And he certainly brought on folks. He wrote and performed most of the music, as he did with Fort Minor. He did get a couple folks that he trusted on here. Machine Gun Kelly, of course. We do have...
K-Flay.
So we have some features on here by trusted folks in his circle that he trusted with this material, and he was meticulous in choosing who he brought on for this.
That makes sense.
Project. Now, I think it was interesting. I think it was kind of buried where it was released.
Yeah.
We had a number of big releases this same year, and Linkin Park was very much mixed in its musical identity and what they brought to the table.
Yeah.
And they were very upfront with what they wanted to do, and that was mix everything together.
Yep. Experiment constantly.
And Mike was very much wanted to do the same thing with this project too. So in a similar vein that year, we also had Migos release Culture 2 early in the year. The Weeknd dropped a project, J. Cole, Post Malone, Ray Sherman, the late Juice WRLD, and Kanye West, Nas, Drake dropped Scorpion right around that same time, the late Mac Miller, Travis Scott that same summer, Nicki Minaj, Ariana Grande, and Young Thug the month after. So we had a barrage of not rock, but this this project is a little bit more kind of hip hop. It's got a lot of techno and synth in it. So in that similar vein, there were massive chart topping projects,
giant names,
all earlier in the year that were crushing the charts, and right around the same time that really, to me, kind of buried this project.
Definitely.
Which is unfortunate.
And a lot of that stuff, some of it's sad, like Posty and Juice WRLD, they got more of the emo side sometimes, but most of the stuff you said is super hype, super let's get crunk type of music for the most part. So, I can understand people not wanting to hear a funeral record that summer. That makes sense.
Yes, I just think it was unfortunate that it was kind of buried.
Yeah, because it's good. It's a good piece of art.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think it's a great follow-up to Fort Minor, to the Rising Tide album. This is kind of the sequel to that, and it kind of holds up as a sequel to that, even, you know, putting aside all the subject matter and lyrical content and all that. It's kind of a next step forward for him as a solo producer, songwriter, you know, making stuff in his bedroom, making stuff in his own studio type of record. And it's kind of a shame that we don't have more albums. I mean, we said it on 20 weeks ago on the Fort Minor podcast. We only really got one solo record from him, and then now the next solo album has this whole, you know, the specter of Chester's death and that whole event over it. So it's not like your normal, he's going to write whatever the heck he wants type of follow-up. But I do think musically, lyrically, production-wise, it holds up. This is a sequel to The Rising Tide, I think. I think it really kind of takes that sound and that idea forward. It's not hip-hop, really. We kind of said it a minute ago. It's like a lot of synths. There is rapping. There's like a lot of trappy sounding drums where he's got like a lot of hi-hats, a lot of kind of generic, modern of its time production, but it's so down-tempo. There's no bangers. There's not a single banger. It's all down-tempo. It's all chill music. It's all kind of just dark, sit alone in your room, and which is fine. And a lot of this stuff is famous right now. I mean, we've got like emo rap and stuff like that where it's, you know, way more about negative emotions and chill and like lullaby style, kind of just pulling it way back, way down. And people vibe to that. People chill out to that. It's just, it's not, there's, you know, no metal on here, which they haven't done for years. And it's not really hip hop a lot of the time. But he makes the synth sound so unique, dude. Every single song has a totally different vibe and tone to the synths, which is incredible. He like gets so many weird tones that he never repeats.
Yeah, I think he does a good job with that. I would agree. I do think, you know, as we go through, I think it does trail off a bit towards the end.
Yep.
But for the most part, for using the same type of, really not changing out too much what he's doing instrumentally, what he's able to get out of it.
Yeah.
What you're hearing, what he's able to put together is really different track to track.
Synth track, drum track, vocal track. That's pretty much it. A lot of it's very minimal, too. It's like a minimalist type of record a lot of the time as well.
I will note that this project, so the Celebrate Memorial Concert brought about and was a big, 3.5 hour show to celebrate Chester. Linkin Park brought a lot of guests in, features in, just to kind of celebrate Chester and put a great show together. And Mike started writing actually track 2 on this project over again the night of that show and wrote the second half of that track the day after. So that's kind of when the process started. He did release an EP prior to this, a 3-track EP. The songs were Place to Start, Over Again, and Watching As I Fall. And all 3 of those tracks did make this album, so we will just kind of walk through them as we go through the project here.
Yep, and I think it's time. Let's do track by track. Let's dive into very depressing album, but hopefully, maybe it's not. Maybe it's a hopeful, looking towards the future type of record, but let's see how we feel about it track by track. Okay, so we got Place to Start. We're going to start at a nice place to start, and it's called Place to Start. This is where he started. Track 1, Place to Start. What do we think?
It's a great intro track. It's about 1:35 of actual song before we slip into a back half of voicemails. It's very muffled, like Mike is trying to kind of sort through his thoughts. So we have some great instrumentation in here. Does somebody else define me? Can I put the past behind me? Do I even have a decision? Feeling like I'm living in a story already written. Am I part of a vision made by somebody else? Very much questioning where he's at and finding his way through, and the instrumentation very much reflects that in the first 1:35 here, the opener.
Yeah, you got like vinyl sounds, kind of just clicky, echoey, whispery sounds to set the emotion. You got, you know, it is an intro. It's a very short song. He does not explicitly mention Chester or Chester's death. It is more kind of open to interpretation lyrics. I think the lyrics are really good. He's got some multi-syllable raps going on. They click really well. He connects. He hits the beat. He hits the flow. The groove is kind of interesting. I like the synth. I like the way it builds and moves. And then the song kind of just ends and goes into some answering machine messages that were left on his voicemail.
Yeah, some condolences being expressed. Yeah. I wish that those had been a separate track. Yeah. So if you were trying to put the first chunk into rather a playlist or a CD, that you were able to do that without the back end voicemails, which I understand as part of the whole collective album are very important. But as far as taking individual pieces and and putting them on separate lists makes it very difficult. So I wish when they did, whether it's Mike or someone else did, whether it's concept albums or whatever, that they chunked out different pieces like this to make it easier to put into different lists.
Yeah. And the voicemails is basically just people calling Mike to make sure that he's okay or whatever. I mean, they're all like, "Are you okay, man? What's going on?" It sounds like he never called anybody back. It's like that kind of thing. Obviously he was not okay, and he, whatever they were going to say is not going to fix what happened.
Right.
So it's kind of that type of emotion where it's like, yeah, he never called that guy back. It's just, what is he going to say? What are they going to say? It's nice that they reached out, but thanks, no thanks, because
just to know that someone's there, though.
Yeah.
And it's very much like the first part of this track, sorting through the emotions, very much as like the beginning of this album indicates, sorting through the chaos.
So we are going to go ahead and rank these songs. I think we've got a good idea of what we consider, A+ material, B material, C material. I think it is fair to rank this. Even though it is more of a tribute album, like a motion processing album, it is still an album of music. We're going to grade it as music, as a piece of art. I give this song a B.
I give it a B+ for the first minute 35.
And then you give an F to the voicemails?
It's a nice piece of the project as a whole.
Yeah. You just don't want them on there.
I mean, no, I don't. Our second track, Over Again.
And over and over and over again.
And it's very much a repeating of sometimes you don't say goodbye once.
Yeah.
You say goodbye over and over and over again. Very much referring to the interactions between folks when someone passes or even when something goes terribly wrong. Having to relive the emotions over and over again because you're communicating with different folks about where you're at or how you feel. So kind of almost playing back off of those voicemails again and communicating with folks.
That hook gives me chills. It's a great lyric. The way he sings it is great. It's catchy, even though it's beyond depressing. And that is a great little hook, a great piece of music. The chorus is amazing. We've got like really hard, weird vocals and drums and bass, everything going on at once. It's still a minimalist album, but he kind of fills out the space on this one. It's just so damn honest. Like everything he says this one is explicit. It's explicitly discussing exactly what happened. Some of the songs are more metaphorical. Some of them are more open to interpretation. This one you cannot deny. This is certainly about Chester and exactly what he was going through, specifically, explicitly.
Yeah, the first verse is kind of talking about getting on stage again, kind of feeling waves of guilt and grief and kind of reflecting back. And the second stage is, interactions and feelings with folks and frustration and trying to move forward. Bass is nice and punchy.
Yep.
And yeah, we have Mike rapping on here again. Very much switches between rap and singing on this album. So this is just a good punchy track, very emotionally charged.
It's catchy, even though it's the most depressing thing you've ever heard. I don't know how he pulled it off. I don't know how he rode that line to get that vibe down to where you do want to sing along to this, even though you know exactly what you're saying. You know what? Linkin Park did that constantly. That is something they achieved over and over and over again, where they would have the most depressing subject matter lyrical hook possible, but the way they sing it, it's empowering. Like crawling in my skin, that kind of stuff, where they've got a whole stadium of kids singing terrible things back to them, but that's how they process it, and that's how they get over the emotions. And it's a lot better than killing yourself, I'll tell you that, guys. Get the music, get it out in some other way besides that. There are other ways to process negative emotions, and he does it. He nails it. Great track. I give it an A+.
I give it a solid B. I understand the importance of the chorus and how it fits in, but it is kind of droning.
It is repetitive.
It is.
A lot of these songs are repetitive.
Yeah, unfortunately. Number 3 on the album, Watching As I Fall, hits right off the bat with some just very, very crunchy 808s. Just wonderful.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
We also have the zipper synth. I don't know what else you would call it.
That's fair enough.
Rolling back and forth. We had a little bit in the second track as well. We have my kind of rap singing.
Rap singing
again. What are your thoughts on this?
It doesn't really go anywhere. It just kind of exists. It doesn't really have a progression to the song at all. it still kind of sounds like a full idea. It just sits there. It doesn't really go anywhere. The chorus is kind of catchy. I like that he starts off, the very first thing he says, "Excuse me while I kiss the sky." That is a Jimi Hendrix lyric. He's calling out, he does it again on a few other songs where he's calling out some classic rock lyrics, which is really cool. The hi-hats are snappy. The synths are interesting. The drums are super distorted, super crunchy. The lyrics are vague this time. These are definitely open to interpretation. He's not, saying explicit things about the actual event or the aftermath of the event. So it's a lot more, just about negativity and the things he was dealing with emotionally, but you could apply it to other situations or interpret it in different ways.
Yeah, it also beckons back to Linkin Park. Watching as I say this and then do that, telling them the old words, but in a new rap. Then I change my mind up and make them lose track. I'm inconsistent. I thought they knew that. Talking and referring to how Linkin Park was always referred to as kind of inconsistent with album releases and styles of music and stuff. So hit a number of different areas here, but it's a little bit off topic from where we were the first couple tracks and journeying back into kind of the concept of the album.
Right. I give it a C. It's kind of average, just kind of sits there and doesn't really do much.
I gave it a B. I like that the instrumentation switches up a little bit more back and forth between the bridge and the chorus and the intro. We have a little bit more variation here than we do throughout some other tracks on the album. So I gave this one a B.
We got track number 4, Nothing Makes Sense Anymore. Starts out with weird synth, goes right into piano, singing vocals, not rapping off the bat. I think this is not good writing. The lyrics are very cliche. He's like, up is down and black is white and left is right. It's just so cliche, so vague. He's not writing about anything on this one. It's just like filler lyrics. I don't know, man. This one, don't like the lyrics.
And I'm not a fan of the instrumentation at all. It's very much, like you said, synths. But it could just as easily have been an orchestra and been a gorgeous song.
Sure.
It's very close to replicating what could have been a violin or a full orchestra panel and a real piano. And I don't know that any of that's real. Some of it's clearly electronic.
Yeah.
But you could have had the real instruments, and it would have been gorgeous. It would have been a gorgeous song. As it is, it's very boring.
Yeah.
We don't really have a build here. It's very monotone. It's very flat. This is not a very inspiring song. It's not it doesn't take me anywhere emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't stand out too much for me lyrically either.
Repetitive again.
Nothing makes sense anymore. I mean, maybe you can say, well, you're in a bland space here, so it's kind of a bland song.
Right. Yeah, but come on. How deep with the concept do you need to go here? You got to write something good.
He also seems to be auto-tuned on this, where he's not in other tracks, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, he sounds a little warbly.
Yeah, so I don't like any of that. It's just a lot could have been done with this without changing the pacing or really what you're doing. If we had more of a natural feel, even it would have been a better track.
It would have helped.
Yeah, so I don't like this at all. I gave it a C. I think that might be too high.
I gave it a D.
All right.
D for don't like this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop that.
You gonna drop it to a D now?
I'll drop it to a D.
Dang, double Ds. Track 5's called About You, featuring Black Bear. So it starts with the weird ass vocal, like every song on the One More Light album had like weird, distorted alien vocals. We start off with that. They've not given up the weird alien vocals. Comes in with some really twinkly synths. And is it about you or not about you? Is it about Chester? Is it not about Chester? You know what I mean? It's like that type of a thing. Even when it's not about you, it's about you.
Right. So Black Bear did collaborate. He co-produced Sorry for Now on the One More Light album.
Oh, awesome.
So he's hopping back in here.
That one was pretty good.
And has a verse. Yeah. I kind of like it. We have a rapping mic on this one in attack mode here.
Oh, yeah.
Very aggressive.
Very aggressive rap.
Again, I wish it's very electronic, very produced, and you could have had, again, some more realistic, and even kind of the bells and the chimes that you have coming in on the chorus. If it was more natural sounding, it would have just had a more natural feel, first of all, and then a gentler sound against his aggressive vocals.
Yeah.
So you could have done a few different layers here, a few different contrasts, a number of different directions you could have gone with this.
Yeah.
Black Bear's verse is very simple, but I do like his voice, and it's another singing verse. It's a contrast to Mike's rap vocals again on here, and It's nice. We dropped things out for his verse as well instrumentally, so it's a nice contrast to the rest of the song. So I like that piece of it.
I think the lyrics are good. I think this is one of the ones where he bridges that gap and finds the sweet spot between explicitly discussing the aftermath of Chester's death and more vague metaphorical stuff. He finds that sweet spot where it's kind of both. It's kind of, I think that's the best writing, where he can take ideas from his real life, but you're able to still map kind of your own tragedy, your own feelings onto it. A lot of the songs on this are either one or the other. This is one where he really hits that sweet spot lyrically.
Black Bear's verse, can't find the words to a memory, but these are just words to a melody. Find something that works, fits the symmetry. For only a quick broken remedy, and I'd give anything to choose. Pick out the words I bring home to you. How can I make do? Put a smile on, change my attitude.
So that's kind of good writing.
Yeah.
It's kind of not as, some of the features are not quite as related to what Mike was doing, but they pull it off. They've got their own spin, their own, experiences to bring in. So I think he does good. I think he does the bridge and it's good. Then the outro just comes in with the weird, distorted alien voice again for a long time. They just repeat the chorus with the weirdo alien version all through the end. Several AC/DC references in the lyrics. He references the song Thunderstruck, and that's pretty cool. I'm sure there's some I missed on here of him just ripping lyrics from classic rock songs and flipping them around, doing new things with old lyrics.
Right.
I love that kind of thing. Just a reference, a quotation. It's a good way to write, to take another piece of imagery and kind of apply it to your new thing. He's not stealing. He's not ripping it off. It's a tribute. It's an homage. It's taking a piece of media and bringing it to his new feeling. I mean, because he's listening to all the stuff. Like, that's how he gets through whatever. Like, he's listening to music that inspired him.
Right.
So it makes sense to kind of put that all in the soup and kind of sprinkle it in, especially on this kind of a project. I don't think Linkin Park does that much at all, or maybe ever.
No.
But it's cool that he went for that and was definitely, like, obvious call out. If you know the original song, obvious call outs to other lyrics. Like, you hear it constantly in hip hop all the time. Like, most rappers will do that. Well, they'll take a bar that you already know and flip it around and put it into their song. And I think it's great that he's doing that. I think it's great that he's doing it with classic rock stuff.
And it very much circles back to Chester without directly, mentioning him.
Right.
Even when there's no connection back to you in any line, all of a sudden it's about you, and it gets me every time.
Right. So I give it a B-.
I give it an A-.
All right.
A B-?
B-.
Oh, yeah, I liked it quite a bit, actually.
I don't know if I like the alien vocals, dude. I think I'm sick of it.
Okay.
Track 6 is, I'm just going to call it an interlude. It's a really long 2.5-minute instrumental piece that I did not rank. You got your static, you got your vinyl sounds, you got your weird vocal samples that you can't understand, you got your eerie synthesizers, you got your guitar, you got some wubs in there, you got some twinkly stuff in there, you got some crunchy stuff in there. That's about all that's in there. It kind of ebbs and flows and moves through all these different little samples, and it's not a song. It's a really, really long interlude.
I like the first 50 seconds with kind of the ambience noise, the simple guitar plucking. I kind of like the first 50 seconds before we have to, put some 808s in here and really make it crashing and do something different with it. I don't think it's actually the worst instrumental. And the title, Brooding, is an interesting two tributes to this instrumental, but it's not unnecessary. This is a 16 with the bonus tracks, 18-track project.
Yeah.
You don't need an instrumental in here. It's not like a
No.
12-track Linkin Park where you're with an instrumental.
Right. Don't need it.
It doesn't really deliver any new sounds.
Nope.
Obviously, there's no narrative vocally, and I don't understand the placement kind of in the middle here, really.
It's not in the middle, though. It's like towards the beginning still.
Yeah, I don't know that this is what Brooding sounds like. I guess it's what it sounds like
to Mike. Whatever.
I like the first 50 seconds, but we don't need this.
I would have cut this immediately. Rick Rubin, tell him to cut the stuff like this. Didn't rank it.
Track 7, Promises I Can't Keep. This was a single and received a music video as well.
Wow, okay. Tell me more.
Not a huge fan of the song.
No way. I can't believe you just said those other things.
I know. It's very kind of flat, kind of boring.
It's bad. It's exactly like Good Goodbye from One More Light. It's almost the exact same melodic hook as Good Goodbye, which is a great song.
Yep.
We got like generic trap sounding drums. It's very modern sounding. It's very Linkin Park sounding. Honestly, this is more of what One More Light should have been like. It's modern, it's heavy. The lyrics are okay. He sings harmony with himself. You got some really slappy sounding percussion in there. But holy crap, how did he not realize that he wrote this record already? Like it is so similar to Good Goodbye, I think. The hook is the same.
I had so much certainty till the moment I lost control, and I've tried, but it was never up to me. I've got no worse enemy than the fear of what's still unknown. And the time's come to realize there will be promises I can't keep.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Singing all the way through.
Not
a rap track. So it comes across very poppy because it's all synths and keys, electronic keys.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Just bland singing, robotic, bland.
Does not sound like a single. Does not sound like it needed a video.
No.
I gave it a D+.
Oh, man. I gave it a C, and I regret that.
You dropping them again?
Man, I think I am.
Should you just drop all of yours like a full letter?
Well, no, let me tell you. So I hadn't listened to this project, until we started going through the full, gambit of projects here for Linkin Park.
Right.
I didn't listen to it when it was first released, other than a couple singles. And I may have heard this, but I don't really know because it's so forgettable.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to my third listen for this review, stuff started dropping in my rankings, so I think this is coming out. I'll give it a C-. I don't think it's completely irredeemable. It's something you can sing along with, but this is not anything super special. The music video is Mike walking throughout the city,
boring
throughout the day. Kind of boring. I mean, it's kind of cool to see. I believe it's LA, so I mean, you see some background imagery. I guess that's kind of cool.
Okay.
If you're not from the area.
Yeah, but
so you can appreciate that a little bit. But yeah, it's not.
You can't give Mike credit for L.A.
This is no. And it's not, a unique creative direction.
Yeah.
So, no. The music video is like a D as well. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Let's do a good song.
Okay.
Crossing a Line. Track 8 is called Crossing a Line. I like this one. There's a lot to like about this one. What do you like about this one?
What do I like about this one? Well, okay, so this was an important track. It wasn't supposed to be a single at first. It was released, prior to the album, I believe, and he wanted it to be a single much later. It's very important. Track 8 of 16. Of course, we had the 2 bonus tracks a little later. And it was meant to be the crossover between kind of the chaotic beginning of the album and kind of coming into the light a little bit into the back half of the album.
Mm-hmm.
This one received a music video as well, and he just announced when he was out and about that there's going to be a music video. He put it on the social media, and fans just showed up within a couple hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, to Sunset Boulevard.
Old school.
Yep, within like 45 minutes, and kind of showed up for his music video here. Now, oddly enough, it's another one of him, another music video of him just kind of walking around, and fans aren't in more than half of it, which is kind of a bummer. I think it could have been shot a little better than just more scenic shots without those fans that ran out to show up in the music video. It's just a lot of shots, Mike in the car, Mike walking around again. I don't know. Could have been done a little bit better, I think. It's another singing song, kind of inspirational kind of feel.
It's unique. The feel is weird. It kind of thuds and pounds and moves you, but it's a little bit hype, a little bit, and the lyrics are great. He hits the sweet spot again, where it's equal parts, you know what he's singing about, but you can also interpret it your own way type of thing.
Yeah.
He nails that on this one again. The vocals sound great. I don't know what it is about the vocal, but they sound almost like country vocals, like country music. Like the way he's singing it and the way they're processing his voice, he sounds like a country singer. The record has it's no country influence in there at all other than that. It's just the way that he sounds it makes it even more unique.
All right. I can hear that a little bit.
I
hadn't considered that.
So I like that. And you got a synth, you got a piano, as always. It's catchy. This one's catchy.
It's catchy. Instrumentally, it seems a little bit simpler.
Yeah.
You got, it's kind of clappier, like clap along. It's kind of got that, is it the synths or the drums at? It's kind of got that clap along feel.
Yeah, you can clap to this.
So it's, very much sing along, tap along, swing along, that kind of, get excited for this song.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you could get excited to this.
it's kind of building this upbeat, excited atmosphere.
So he's really crossing the line on here. He's like bringing you back to maybe some not super downer type records for a minute here.
Yeah, a clear headspace, I think. I used to think that I knew who I was. Never saw it coming unglued. I used to think that I knew who I was. Now it's time to see if it's true. Boom. Let's figure it out. Let's figure it out with the back half
good
of this
writing
album.
too. It's simple, but it's good.
Yeah. Now, sometimes that's what you need to get the point across.
It's usually what you need.
And to hit repeat and to start listening to it over again. Kind of get stuck in your head.
How about an A? Straight up A.
A. I gave it a B+.
B plus.
This one moved up in my rankings.
Ooh. Okay.
It was originally down a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a little simple. I don't know if I'll
Yeah.
keep listening to it. And then I did. So I was like, okay, well, I think this is a little bit higher.
You said it was a single. This one deserved to be a single.
Yes.
Yeah. Very cool. Track 9's called Hold It Together. This song reminds me of a Gorillaz song. It's kind of that area where it's a little bit hip hop, a little bit experimental, a little bit synthesizer. Sounds a lot to me like I love Gorillaz, huge Gorillaz fan, so that's cool that he's kind of in that realm of production on this. Makes a lot of sense. They're both kind of alternative hip hop projects. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. That I mean, maybe he was influenced by Gorillaz. Probably not necessarily, but it's that type of. You could throw this in like a Gorillaz playlist, and it would make sense.
Well, it's got that vibe lyrically, too. It's got a little bit of dark humor in there. She said, "Are you okay?" And I'm staring into space. It's making her nervous because one thing is certain. I don't have my head on straight. We're trying to get through each week. 1, 2, or 3 hours of sleep. I say to be patient that we're going to make it. I have to admit that I'm struggling. So that's the first verse about him kind of coping with Chester. The second verse, though, they say that they sympathize. I'm grateful they take the time, but bringing it up at the 6-year-old birthday, I kind of F's up my vibe.
Shoot.
We end on an awkward note. I make the most awkward joke.
Well,
Too dark to be funny. I shouldn't have come. It'd be weird to go home and I'm struggling. So it's kind of a dark humor.
Yeah. I like that. And, you know, some people need that type of thing to process grief. There's different ways to process grief, and dark humor is certainly one of them. So it's cool that we have that little piece in here like that, where it's like the awkward nature, the dark humor nature of... I mean, it goes back to those dang voicemails where everybody thinks that they can somehow console him when how could you possibly console this man over something like this? And it's that type of thing where it's you just got to laugh at it, where it's like, you know, no, that it's tragedy. I'll be depressed forever. You'll never, you know, let's not talk about this, please.
Yeah. And the verse is catchy on here, just trying to hold my together.
That's all you need.
Yeah, so it's just a very kind of fun, relatable, I guess, verses in certain senses, and a fun little, certainly relatable chorus as well, just trying to hold things together.
We got a lot of different synths on here that come in and out. You get a crazy breakdown bridge on this. I think that this, another one where One More Light should have gone more in this direction. It sounds modern, but it also sounds unique. It's creative, modern, without falling back on cliches or without ripping off other sounds. I know I said it sounds like Gorillaz, but I don't think he's ripping them off type of thing. I do think it is slightly repetitive, and that's what dropped it all the way to a B.
So I actually dropped it all the way to a C, despite the wonderful things we've said.
Right.
It is a little repetitive, and, you know, I don't know how often you're replaying this track.
Yeah.
The verses are clever. It's relatable, but I don't think you're playing it too often. And there are some unique things, you know, compared to the rest of this album, but I just don't know that it's earth-shattering. Very average. I'd say average overall to repeatability, replayability, and
fair enough.
The listenability, I guess.
Well, I'm ready for track number 10. It's called Ghosts. What do you think about Ghosts on this thing?
Well, you know, it startled me when you brought it up. No one likes to hear about ghosts. So I'm a fan of this track.
Okay.
I don't think that you are.
No, I already told you that off mic.
I kind of like... I can't explain why, because listening back to it, it sounds a little generic. And like I told you, multiple listens have kind of dropped the grades for the most part for me.
That's a bad thing. That's a not, you know, just an overall review of the album. The fact the more you listen to it, the more, you know, you dropped the grade as opposed, because a lot of records, you hear it the first time, you don't really get it. And then you hear it more and you get it, and it's better. But
We start to digest what happens lyrically. The sounds, they either really catch your ear or they just don't. Either something really resonates with you or it doesn't, whether it's in content or in structure and how it, it just depends.
So they're kind of novelty songs, which is a point I made on the Fort Minor album, where Mike, he writes to a concept, and he writes to a concept so hard and so heavily that it's essentially novelty records at a certain point, which is fine.
Right.
You can do that. There's a lot of guys who are successful with it, but it's like, it's just so to the concept that either you like it or you don't.
My favorite part is really the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
He has a nice, solid first verse. She said this is not about a poltergeist, not about a phantom that glows at night, but there are things we don't know, and I don't have another choice but an open mind.
That's a triple of a triple rhyme.
Yeah, so I kind of like the first verse. And we're rapping again, rapping versus singing chorus. It's not exactly a sing along, or sing around track. Kind of builds a little bit into the chorus.
Yeah.
So it kind of has a little bit of activity, a little bit of movement. I mean, the chorus, we actually drop everything back out again and leave just the chorus, just Mike singing. And I like when they do that, because Linkin Park does that a lot. When you hear a complete change from chorus to even bridge and in the verses.
I thought this song was very Linkin Park sounding.
Yeah.
Like you could put this song on Minutes to Midnight and no one would blink.
And you could switch off between, it'd be Chester Mike vocals as well.
Chester right, that's who we miss.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Chester. The ghost of Chester is on this track, maybe a little bit in there.
So I just like the instrumentation, how it moves, how we have variation in different segments, and I like the first verse the most.
Mm-hmm.
And it does have a bit of a, you can sing to part of it, I guess. I don't know.
It's got a chorus. It just is not a catchy chorus. You could.
When the lights go down.
You wouldn't want to, but you could.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I kind of like it.
Yeah.
You don't.
I gave it a C. I think it's average. Nothing wrong with it. It's just there's nothing really that stands out.
I gave it an A-, and I kind of like that it fits somewhat in the theme of
it's in
the
there.
full album.
Track 11, we got K-Flay. I love K-Flay. I think she is a great rapper and a great vocalist and a great songwriter. Track's called Make It Up As I Go.
This is a great track.
Okay. Tell me about that opinion.
So I think I heard this track a dozen times.
Really?
Before I realized it was Mike at all.
It's a lot of K-Flay.
It's very much a radio song.
It could be. Did it?
Oh, yeah. Music video.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that it charted super well.
Yeah, I mean.
But we have.
He's up against Migos and Kanye.
Oh, yeah. So it didn't, like we stated, probably didn't chart well because of a lot of those other tracks.
But anyway.
But we have rapping Mike on the verses and singing a little bit through the choruses. We have some great bopping here, some great boops, if you will.
I put weird bumpy drums.
That's a good way to describe it.
It's bumpy.
It's great. You can sing along, you can bob with this, and her voice is very unique.
So yeah. Nobody sings like this woman. K-Flay, go check out the K-Flay records if you don't know.
She has 3 albums out now. Her second one had just released prior to Mike's album coming out here. So she had 2 albums out at this time.
It's cool that they're friends. That makes sense. They're both alternative hip-hop. Again, I believe you could consider them both. A
little repetitive again, nothing crazy in the lyrics. It's just very catchy. Very catchy, a different tune instrumentally, so different song from the rest of the album, really. So it just really, I think, stands out, catches your ear. It's nice to have another female vocalist.
Totally. They should do more. They should get Kiara back. They should do like 100 records with her instead of just heavy.
We have a crooning guitar in here, if you catch it in certain spots. I wish we had a little bit more of that.
He barely plays any
as
guitar.
Well.
I caught very, very little. I don't, maybe 1-2 songs with a guitar, maybe.
Yeah, I wish we had more real instruments, real playing in here. But this is a solid tune. It doesn't fit into the full album here with everything else.
Not really.
Make It Up As I Go.
Man, I wrote down C+, but I'm going to raise it up to a B. I'm going to give it a B.
A B for Make It Up As I Go?
Yeah.
I give it an A-. This is something that I would continue to put on playlists. It's one of my favorite songs on the whole album.
Time to lift off with Lift Off. We got track number 12. Here we go. We got MGK on here. We got Chino Moreno on here. This is like kind of way chill and not fun and dreamy, just kind of like hazy, dream, jangly, weird music that is not fun. in my opinion. What do you think?
It was supposed to be more of kind of like a battle rap song.
Okay.
Beckoning back to like the Fort Minor days.
We major.
Yeah. And so more of a fun song, kind of just escaping the moment. But yeah, we do have our buddy here from the Deftones, and of course MGK, who was originally supposed to do a tour with Linkin Park.
Oh man, okay.
So that's kind of where he comes back in, sort of like Black Bear back in the previous tracks.
Right.
Just have a link with Linkin Park.
So it's guys that they were already kind of tight,
had a connection with.
Yeah,
right?
Makes sense.
So I like the song. I like that we have some different vocals on the chorus from Chino. I like MGK. I really like MGK. I think he can rap. Mm. I'm not sure about this song so much. It's very much a 3-person song. It's not Mike and a couple features.
No.
There's a music video for this one as well.
Oh man.
It just shows the 3 collaborating in the studio and the positive energy that came from the 3 of them working together. And even Machine Gun Kelly kind of looks like writing down his working on his verse.
Oh wow.
So it looks like he worked on it right there in the studio.
Yep, that's the way to do it for real.
But I like kind of the more calming vibe that this song has.
I don't know. I gave it a C. We'll just call it a C. Give it a C. I'm not going to give it the minus. I don't know. It's too boring. I think MGK's verse is pretty good. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but he does kind of kill it on here. But something about it just makes me want to go to sleep. Even some of this other stuff at the beginning where it's, blatantly suicide, lyrics and stuff like that. Like this is just, I'm going to go to bed after this.
I do like the contrasts with Chino singing and the chorus and then the aggressive verses. I do like that contrast. So I gave it an A-. This is something that I would actually re-listen to despite the dark subject matter. Yeah, I like this track a lot. So Lift Off an A- for me, and what was it, a C for you?
C, yeah.
Okay.
Here we go. Here's one that I really like a lot. It's called IOU. Very minimalist. This is just bars. I don't even think there's a chorus. It's just minimal drums, synth, bars, and he kills it. Dude, this is what I want to hear from Mike. The writing on this is so good. He's on the Fort Minor album, we criticized him constantly for writing about writing and criticize him for, he's reaching, he's talking about stuff that didn't really happen. This is exactly what I want to hear. It's stuff that happened to him. He's making a point. He's expanding on his own place in the music industry, his own place in the world, his own place as an artist, and it's meta. He's talking about himself, but he's not reaching. He's really just kind of hitting you over the head with this is who I am, this is what I've done, this is how you should feel about it, this is how it affects the world around me, this is how my art can touch the lives of myself and others. That's the way you should rap. It's hard to do. It's hard to find that sweet spot, and we've criticized him a lot, but he annihilates it. This is, I think, his best lyrics on the thing.
Levitating in the blackout. Used to drink at least a 40 before we mashed out. Used to think that working 40 was a max out. Now I'm working even when I'm sleeping. Do the math now. Because even when I'm sleeping, eyes keep 'em open. Stripe across 'em, both the color of your hemoglobin. A huge act man like I'm known for being Logan. X23, I'm known to leave 'em with the femur broken. Taking it too far, maybe. So we got, yes, Logan, Wolverine, X-Men references in there. That's the second verse. Excellent.
Yeah.
So yeah, we certainly criticize his writing ability, both on as a member of Linkin Park and on Fort Minor. But this is some of his best work, period. Yep. Certainly on this album. So yeah, this is, again, another detour from the full project. Very much a Fort Minor song. Very much a empowering,
better than Fort
Mike,
Minor.
aggressive track.
And the beat is unique. It's crunchy and weird and ratchety, and it's not like a ripoff of another beat. It's it just crunches, but it's modern and unique, and he kills it. He puts the bars exactly where they need to be. He fills the space.
Great writing.
Yeah.
Nice beat. Nice flow. What did you grade this?
A.
An A for me as well.
Booyah. IOU goes into track 14, which is called Running From My Shadow, featuring Grandson. Have not heard about Grandson. Do you know about Grandson?
I don't know much about Grandson.
Had a goofball name. I bet you he's fine. He does. What does he do on this? Does he sing or rap?
He does sing. There is a music video for this track. It's a fine track. It's an okay track. I'm running from my shadow, but it's still there chasing me down. I'll never win the battle, and I should have known it by now. Just when I think I found the end, oh, whoa, 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 Running from My Shadow
Yeah.
in the title
Yep.
and in lyric content.
Mm-hmm.
It's repeated over and over again, so it is very catchy.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. I don't know that there's much. I don't feel like there's too much to the writing here.
No, it's generic.
Yeah. So instrumentally, there's not much that I've picked up on that's too exciting.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wrote down. It's it's not exciting. It's very modern sounding, kind of generic sounding, kind of a ripoff of some of the modern synths and tones and drums that you would hear in kind of modern pop music, which is fine. I mean, whatever. This is another one where how come One More Light wasn't as good as this? How come One More Light wasn't this creative and this? So I gave it a C.
That's solid. I gave it a B- because you can sing along with it.
Yeah.
They do some more of dropping pieces in and out of chorus and verse to kind of create a little bit of a contrast.
Yep.
So you're listening, probably keying in more on the verse when there's less going on in the background, picking up the energy again in the verses. So I do like that.
Yeah.
I think that makes a difference when you're listening to a track. And, you know, the feature here, this grandson guy, I don't know what this is on the verse. I think it kind of ruins it. I like the idea that there was a feature on here. There should have been a different feature.
Okay.
I just don't know what he really adds.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a full vocal, like he's singing, but it's kind of that mumble singing.
It's mumble singing.
So
it is.
You know, it's kind of a
half-assed.
loss. So,
I like there's a guitar or something at the end or a synth that sounds
Right.
like a guitar, but it's just kind of screaming at you. It's fine. It's interesting sound.
it had potential.
That's another thing. I wrote. What did I write down? They didn't go far enough with it. That's what I wrote down. They could have gone further with it and made a really cool. Like I said, if it was a Linkin Park song and they took it to like that level, where they just throw every idea at the wall and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite, they could have really nailed it and had a really good record out of this one.
So B- sounds about right.
So we got Worlds on Fire, track 15. Another one that reminds me of Gorillaz. The way the 808s sound and the way that the synths sound and the way that he builds the track, it's that alternative vibe, and I think it would fit in a Gorillaz playlist.
Yeah. Bouncy, very punchy again. It has a little bit of kind of an echo, a reverb on it.
But the vocals are super clean. There's
Yes.
like distorted drums, but the vocals are just dead on.
Yes, there's a bit of a contrast there. The riots on the horizon. We're calling each other's bluff. The smoke's filling up the skies, and I say we should pack it up. Maybe the blaze will take this away, to ash and to earth below. You tell me to breathe, that you still believe, and closing my eyes, I know. That's the second verse. I like the imagery that it paints. Certainly fitting the song title, Worlds on Fire. Overall, I don't think it's a super exciting song. I'm not impressed by this in particular. I do like some of the instrumentation in the back.
Yeah. There's a synth in there that's like a straight up like 80s dark synth new wave sound that he brings in out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it really just cleans up the track and just like, oh, there's this other sound. Okay, cool.
I love that piece, and I love some of the imagery that they're able to conjure up. But are you replaying this song?
Mm-mm.
Is this a highlight for you?
I wrote down B+. I still kind of stick on that. The harmonies on the chorus, the World's on Fire part, is really good. The way he produced, it's probably 2 or 3 or 4 layers of him singing together, and that's crunchy. It's really crunchy. But yeah, I know what you mean.
It's very much that echoey aspect that's kind of going on with the instrumentation in the back as well.
Yeah. So you're saying less than a B+?
I gave it a C+.
Okay.
I do like aspects of it. I don't know. They could have done more.
I think it's in the better half of the album. If you cut it into the good half and the bad half, it would make it out.
I think it's right in the middle. I just think there's no. It seems to be in a certain pocket. You hit a certain level, and you're there the whole song.
Yes.
It doesn't elevate. It doesn't drop back down. We're not dropping things in and out of the verse and the chorus.
Mm-hmm.
You're just kind of there. You're on the train, and you're going that speed.
Yeah, very slow.
You're not in the car, stopping for lights, doing different things.
Right. So that's that.
So I like different aspects, but it's a high average. It's a C+ for me.
High C, yeah. High C. Let's do track 16. Can't Hear You Now. Why don't you say what you thought, and then I'll just read my notes pretty much verbatim on this one.
Oh boy, that means you didn't like it. That's what that means. Your notes say this is trash.
No,
it's too poppy. It's boring. It's redundant, and I don't like the writing.
That's what your notes say?
That's what your notes say.
Yeah, close.
Okay, so we've got more rapping here, singing in the chorus. It's a boring song.
Yep, I wrote underwhelming, generic, forgettable.
Yeah, it's just, it puts you in a, what I feel is kind of a monotone pocket. It doesn't do a lot lyrically, and it's very general and broad. It doesn't necessarily, to be kind of bland and general, and doesn't necessarily fit some of the specificity of the album and some of the strong visceral feelings, and it's just bland on purpose for the song, and the feeling is understandable, but it's just not a very exciting song. It introduces no new elements on any level. It's not exciting to listen to. I gave it a C-.
So did I. Lyrics were decent, but I would have cut this song from the album.
Right. The lyrics are the one part that's not a D.
Yeah.
Lyrics are okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're right on the same wavelength on this one.
Okay. All right.
That's the end of the main project. We got some bonus tracks, 2 bonus tracks.
Bonus tracks came out on the digital deluxe and a vinyl release later on after the original release. Track 17, Prove You Wrong. I have that it's got some keys, and it's a little marchy, and it's a little boring.
Yeah, it's a little boring. We obviously are not impressed by this one.
There's a reason they're bonus tracks, right? They're not saving the best for the bonus.
Nope.
Rapping, but it's a little bit more melodic, so it's some of that sing rapping we have at times. It's just not particularly exciting. It's kind of a bland instrumental, I think. Instrumentally, what we're doing as far as 808s and synths and instruments, unless you caught something that I didn't.
Nah, it's explicitly about Chester.
Yep.
It's another one of those. It kind of hits hard. It does kind of sound like a signature Mike song. I give it a B-.
That was generous. I give it a C-. I do like that we drop in and out of, chorus verse again.
Yep.
Do a little building in and out. So that's nice. I just don't think it's a very inspiring song. I think it's better than some of the other tracks that we really buried here.
Yeah.
But it's just not anything special. Track 18 is What the Words Meant.
Okay. What is he singing about? It's a meta song. It's a song about a different song. But what song is he talking about? I don't know. I did not Google it.
Okay.
Did you Google it?
I did. Let me pull my notes here.
All right.
Why don't you tell us about the instrumentation while I Google that up for you?
Yeah, well, let me Google that up for you. We got some thudding drums. We got some drippy sounding drums. Singing, not rapping. Adds more instruments as it goes along. It does sound kind of Linkin Park-ish as some of the more chill atmospheric stuff they were getting into. The drums sound very much like the kind of drum processing that they use on Linkin Park. It just kind of keeps developing and developing and developing as it goes, which is good because a lot of these songs are just kind of repetitive and stay in the same lane, as we've said. It's crunchy. It's good. A little bit generic, but he's doing his own spin with it, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's pretty good. I gave it a B.
A B.
So now let's talk about the lyrics.
Great.
Okay, here we go. Here I got a quote. In response to LP Live incorrectly guessing the meaning of the track, Mike Shinoda posted, blah, blah, blah. For your information, what the words meant is actually about a conversation with another artist, not Linkin Park, whose songs I've loved for a while. I didn't know what their lyrics were about. She told me their album was about the loss of her sister. So wonder what the words meant is about understanding that kind of grief as a person and an artist. It's about having a new and unfortunate understanding due to tragedy. But it's a record he enjoyed.
Yeah.
And then after Chester's passing,
right,
was much more impactful to him. And that's kind of a really interesting way to write a song. Meta song. It's a song about a song.
Yeah, it's for the listener, it's open to interpretation.
Sure.
So I think that's great. It's certainly interesting. Yeah, like you said, an interesting way to write a track. From our perspective, it is very repetitive. What did you grade it?
Oh, he does reveal. It was a record by the band Phantogram. Okay, so there you go. I give it a B. We'll have to check out Phantogram now.
Yeah, I guess we will. I gave this one a B as well. I kind of like that it builds a little bit of an atmosphere.
It does.
And I kind of feel like it dials back, then pushes again, and kind of there's an ebb and flow to it a little bit. I like this track. I give it a B.
So that's every song on the thing. That's 18 songs. What do we think overall of this?
Overall, I think it was great as a concept album to kind of give Mike a release and the confidence to kind of build again, to perform again. I think it was great for fans again as well to hear from Mike. We did have a few of the Linkin Park members touching on production here and there as well. Not a whole lot. I think it's great to have this out and to hear from the members again. And great for a healing process for those guys, for Mike specifically, and great to hear for the fans. Overall, a solid project. I don't think there's a lot of tracks that either one of us will be replaying a lot of.
Right. That's the thing.
And there are tracks that we didn't like as much, whether it was because the content doesn't lend itself to something you're going to be playing a lot of, or some of it was just something we don't find really unique, or something that we can't find performed or produced better by someone else on a similar track. So overall, a solid project. I think I know I had quite a few B's, C's, above average, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
But I think it did a good job of showing a lot of emotion.
Right.
And just allowing a lot of creative space within what was relayed instrumentally to reflect, instrumentally. We talk about how song titles tie in sometimes more so than just being a title, but how it's sometimes reflected on how you hear things instrumentally and how you hear things in the writing. It's not just, well, this lyric is in there, so this is going to be the title. Mm-hmm. So I think that really has a nice build-in, especially in this album. Although some of the tracks, especially towards the end, the last group, some of them could have been chopped out, especially some of the tracks that he doesn't consider a part of the concept, could have been scrapped for something else.
Yeah.
And like you said, we do have very much a feeling of Linkin Park in here, which is nice. Very much Fort Minor, and also some just kind of Mike doing his thing, putting his touch on the canvas. So a great project, and I do like the packaging with his painting on front, and even the idea of the coloring pages in it as a therapeutic means to color in and have a therapeutic moment with that as far as considering packaging, and then going on tour for the album and including Linkin Park songs in the set. So I think it's just a great all-around, going outside of the four squares, the four pieces of the album, and outside and expanding in all different directions. I don't know if that all made sense.
Yeah, great wrap up. I think you said it, man. So check it out if you haven't. I feel like a lot of people missed this one. Maybe we're not even aware. I hope we get more. There is another Mike Shinoda solo album, although a lot of it is instrumental and weird stuff and beats and all kinds of stuff that he made over Twitch. He made it collaborating with people and made it on stream, like just creating songs as he went. So that's a different thing. But
yeah, he's been very present still with fans and communicating with folks.
Which is
and
phenomenal. There are very few artists that are even capable of that or willing to do that or who enjoy doing that. And he's one of them, man. He loves being with the fans, talking with the fans, just one-on-one, like explicitly communicating with specific fans like that. So that's cool. But yeah, I'm just saying he better make more. We said it with Fort Minor.
He's very gifted, no matter what, whether he's involved in production or singing, rapping, playing. As much as we tear apart various aspects, especially his writing sometimes, he's gifted in a lot of areas. And he, like we stated, he puts together this entire album, Fort Minor. He's putting together a lot of these projects by himself.
Yep.
So, very talented man. So that has been Mike Shinoda's Post Traumatic. Please check that out. Please check us out. We'll be putting out our grades as well for this album. Check out our grades for all the Linkin Park albums and the tie-ins as well on our socials. And we will be back next week.
Cool. Bye. We love you.